All right, click the links for Odyssey. Bitch, you join the channel, support channel, subscribe to our Patreon, the various other links, Gab, and Telegram. So, in the 90s, there was this big push for what the story is. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle voice actor claims question of what is a woman is a anti-BLT talking point. You know, if you're on the left, God, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. That's the first thing. Is like you don't have to go along with all this stuff. I mean, at some point you can go, oh, hey, maybe some issues. We don't have to double down on every issue. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe the what is a woman thing, the whole, the BLT thing is fine. It's like, you got gay marriage, you got all this kind of, but maybe the T part, like, maybe we want to re-examine our feeling on that, but they can't. They're terrified. They're terrified to leave the herd. That's why they stay in the center of the herd. But listen, you should be able to talk about anything. As they're going through their road thing, and then somebody mentions women. It's like suddenly the left knows what women are. But like, you can't answer that question if you're on the left because you'll get in trouble. It's like, it's an adult human female. You know what a woman is. It's what is scary is when a Supreme Court justice doesn't know the definition of that word. That's a little bit scary. I think we're headed for interesting days, but I also think we're going to come out of it without too much muss and fuss. I don't think people really want to go to war. I think people are probably, if the choice is like literally a war, hot war, or the 50 states just go back to like decrease the Fed power and go back to a 50 state model. I think most people are going to look at that and go, oh, okay, let's just go to a 50 state model. You can have people do what they want. You can move to the state you want, and that's going to kind of be the peaceful path forward. People don't want a war with people don't. That's the kind of the last response. But people are also getting tired of this kind of SJWism. Because it's not like to say it like that just sounds so casual. It's like, oh yeah, we got woke in the 90s and then people made fun of them and it kind of dialed back. But that was before social media. And so what you're seeing now is a censorship of speech, which is a censorship of ideas, which means if you hold the wrong opinions online, you're going to see real consequences. It's like, oh, it's accountability culture. It only goes one way though. It's by this, the group of people who, if you hold control of the media and control of the social media, you control the narrative. And I think most people are kind of looking at that and going like, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of big corporations that if they get any social media pushback, they're just gonna kowtow to it immediately. So there are politically correct opinions to be held. That won't get you in trouble on social media, like the what is a woman type of thing, or the Roe v. Wade type of decision. But if you hold the wrong opinion, you can't express that on social media because you don't have any rights. Like really, the easiest way to take care of this would have been decades ago. Would have been say. You can't be, there's no political discrimination for viewpoints. You have an open platform on social media. It's got to be declared a constitutionally protected zone, the new town square for the marketplace of ideas type of thing. And you can't be fired for political discrimination or viewpoints you hold on. Something like that. Like there's ways to do it. You go, oh, well, the founding concept is the First Amendment. So we value that so highly. We're going to apply that and further out to the new town square in 2022 is going to be digital. So you go, yeah, it's kind of weird that our representatives didn't really get on that. Anyway, so it's becoming very apparent to everyone that politics is downstream from culture, and which is downstream from if you control the social media environment and the media environment. And they do, and they're controlled by very far left-wing people, censorious people. You're going to be able to control the political environment also, and that's very, very serious. Like that is something that would be worth going to war over, because if you don't have free expression, you're not free to espouse different political ideologies. Then you've just acquiesced yourself into slavery. So like, yes, there are some hills to die on, and that's one of them. But I just don't think it's going to go that way, because I don't think people go, oh yeah, if we have a war, like 20 million people will get deleted. I think like, or the alternative is, oh, we could just split into 50 states. Oh, okay, and then you can just run your own states and have borders on your states, and you can run them the way you want. Anyway. So this is the fallout from Roe, which is not, that in and itself is probably not such a big issue. And gee, the entertainment industry is coming out to be left-wing. Shocking and surprising. That's not a big issue because it's very clearly a 10th Amendment issue. It's not enumerated in the Constitution, so it's a 10th Amendment issue. The very tenuous argument that it was a 14th Amendment issue is nonsense. I mean, you had to bend over backwards to find that. Even when they did that, that was nonsense right from the start. And it's kind of an interesting conspiracy pathway to go down to see, like, what were they doing in 72 when they did that? Anyway, so it's bad law that was finally overturned. That's not a big deal. And obviously the left wing is on the side of this, though, and to the extent that some corporations are even paying women. Like, what kind of, I did this yesterday, but I mean, what kind of dystopian hellhole is that when you realize, like, oh yeah, corporations are paying women to delete their kids so they can be back at work with a minimum muss and fuss. I mean, even if you're on the left, you got to kind of look at that and go, oh, wait a minute, are we kind of going down a weird pathway here? I mean, this is, I don't know, feels a little like a nightmare world. Just a little matrixy or something. Anyway, so the straw man issue that these people keep trying to push is separation of church and state. Fair enough. That's absolutely not the issue. You can go look at the first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights. You don't see the right to delete a kid. And in fact, anything, if you're looking through the whole Constitution, then the writings of the Founding Fathers is probably more going to fall in the line of, if you have the privileges and immunities of we the people, we the citizens of the United States, then you're probably going to have apply, like you would more logically apply equal protection to everyone, every life in being. It's like, well, a scientist is going to tell you life is in being at conception, or at least, I mean, because that's the only point you can point to, and you can't go further back beyond that to say. And you're hearing arguments from these I don't know, I guess SJWs who are protesting, and women are like, the arguments are oh, well, men's sperm should be regulated. It's like, that's not a life in being. It has to combine with the egg. It's like, would you regulate ovulation? That's a nonsense argument. It's, some of the stuff you're seeing is childish, but you're also not seeing huge protests over it, because most people go, oh, it's kind of a convoluted issue. You can't really get too fired up about it. And then also, if you're in a blue state, you're in California and you're protesting in California, like, oh, so we're gonna burn down the city in California where it's legal. Yeah, that'll show Idaho. Oh, I mean, it won't really. It's and ultimately you boil it down. You go, oh, let the people decide. The people want this. You go, okay, well, but state by state, they can just vote in their state whether or not they want it. Oh, right. But we don't want your state to do this position or that position. It's like, okay, well, you have the right to vote. It's just not that big a deal. So them trying to say it's separation of church and state is asinine. You know it's not, because there's plenty of constitutional arguments to be had to return this power. The power is literally in the 10th Amendment. It's reserved to the state. But they're going back and forth, and he kind of experiences that Supreme Court moment where he asks what is a woman, which, you know, some, you don't want to, like, not all arguments have to be, you don't have to go to bat on all arguments. Yeah, quote the 14th Amendment where you find the right to a woman's right to privacy. Yeah, but what about the baby's right to due process? And then you're stuck. Like, I can argue both sides of the abortion issue because it's not emotional to me, but on a constitutional, just on the constitutional issue, regardless of anything else, it's, I think the law is probably going to lie with protecting the life in being in most cases. So yeah, there wasn't a law on abortion. It was overturning an unconstitutional ruling because it violated the 10th Amendment. So it's not like there's none of this is being argued on a religious on religious grounds, and they know that, but it's the only straw man they can have. They go, oh, we're gonna go vandalize some Catholic churches. Okay, why would you do? And I'm sure the media will cover that. No, like any of these kind of things, the only coverage of this kind of stuff is on the alt media, because if a church gets spray painted, the mainstream media is just not even going to cover that. And if they do cover it, it won't be tweeted and retweeted. So that's kind of a tricksy thing the left wing does with issues, is issues that they push will get retweeted and tweeted, like the Asian stuff. I don't know if you've been following stuff like that, the Asian people suffering batteries. That makes the media, the mainstream media, very lightly. But then you go to Twitter, it's it doesn't get the impressions that other stories get. Like if it was a white guy does something, commits some battery, that will get like 1 million impressions on Twitter. But if it's the wrong person committing a battery on an Asian, it'll get like 4,000 impressions. That's how they control the media. That's how they control the narrative. They do the same thing on YouTube and Twitter just by simply shadow banning things, which is, I don't know where the Elon Musk situation is. I think he's having some hesitation because there's so many bots on Twitter that they might have overvalued Twitter in terms of like what's the actual market cap of the company and like what's its real outreach to advertising. If 20% of the company is actually bots, then, which seems pretty likely, then you could have that $45 billion is probably overvalued. Anyway, but if he did buy Twitter, if that sale actually went through and he was more on the side of free speech, that would change everything. That would be the one of the monumental shifts that would I don't know. I don't want to say trigger the Civil War as to be like a hot war, but the dissolution of the United States into, finally admitting that these various groups have irreconcilable differences and this experiment has not worked. That would be if Elon Musk got a hold of Twitter. That's how powerful Twitter is to control the narrative. And they know that. That's why they lost their minds when he expressed interest in it. And he's a more free speech. If the thing is, there's a big, like the silent majority, there's this big percentage of people out there, the moral majority, silent majority, who are not on board all this nonsense. You're seeing these overblown voices of a lot of blue-haired weirdos doing this kind of stuff, running around protesting, and the vast majority, even left and right, people are looking at them going like, this is nonsense. Why are you allowing this? They don't want this, but they're not free to express themselves on social media because you just get kicked off or they get shadow banned. If Elon Musk buys Twitter, it's the preeminent. It's for something to go viral. Twitter is the number one platform for that. So that would fundamentally alter the United States structure, which is fascinating, and we are living in interesting times. Anyway, so he comes to this simple question, is what is a woman? Because they're talking about women's rights. And he says, I neither have the time nor interest for your regurgitation of anti-BLT talking points. Please unfollow me. That's so childish and condescending to deflect the question that way. And what an L it is for your side, which, he's nobody, he's a voice actor, it's fine. The Supreme Court justice was more of an issue when she didn't know what a woman was. That was a little spooky, but if you have a split, I mean, the Supreme Court is in the Constitution, so I'm not sure how to. I guess they would only deal with federal cases, and then cases leaving into the states going to federal court. Be interesting. I mean, you deal with federal court cases brought before you, but not the power to regulate the 50 independent states themselves. I don't know. It'd be interesting, but my point being, if you're on the left and you have to deflect because you're scared of the answer, or the real answer is not adult human female. That's the scientific answer. The answer for them would be, I don't know what is the politically correct term. Don't you mean the correct term? No, I don't know what the politically correct term is. This will, he's probably retired by now, but because he knows that if he comes out with the wrong answer, they, like these people like Robert Pattinson and Stephen King, they're terrified more of the public, the left wing turning on them. If you're on the left and you're pro, you're pro the states' rights issues for Roe, you're keeping those cards close to the vest because you know what would happen if you got out there and you're not supporting women. You're like, oh no, actually I'm a left winger, but I'm pro life. Oh, well you're just not a left winger anymore. Someone on Twitter referred to it as like, oh, congratulations, you're doing the minimum necessary, some of these kind of issues. When there's some people on the left who are starting to abandon the trans issue, they look at that as like, that's just that's not an issue that is gonna move you forward into gathering the hearts and minds of the middle of the political bell curve. And the far left is like, your far left is triggered by that lack of support, and you go like, yeah, it's just not there. You're not going to make it happen. Stop trying to make it a thing. Anyway, what is a woman? Adult, human, female. The female is the bearer of young. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.